right, so what we're going to tie is what's known as Roy's Special Emerger. This is a highly popular pattern. Many people claim that this pattern works in situations where other flies just will not work. And that's part of the reason why it's become so popular over the years. What I got in the vise here is a dry fly size 18 DF1 from Lightning Strike. That's going to be on the larger end of this fly. This fly is typically tied between an 18 and a 22, maybe a 24, somewhere in there. So the thread I'm using is 14-aught shear in black. And what I want to do is I want to start my thread at the third position, which is just, if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically where the thorax starts. Okay, so we're going to start there. I'm going to wrap my thread back. I'm going to take it back to the hook point. I'm going to snap that off. And I'm going to continue to wrap back just a little ways. Put 2 more in just to tie in the tag. Next, we got to put in the shuck. And if I remember correctly, the shuck originally was Antron. And what I want to use here is some EP fiber. And you don't need many here, fibers here. Just 4 or 5 little strands will do. And if you've been following along with the classes, you know, you're probably pretty aware that I like to slide that material up underneath and tie that in. Now you can draw, as I start to wrap this to the back, put a few turns in so it doesn't move, but you can draw this material forward towards the hook eye to shorten the distance before you have to cut anything out. And what we're going to do is we're going to trim this off right with where the thread started. And we want the shuck to be about the length of the hook shank. And so I just kind of gauge it, and I'll just trim it off at a few different points so that it's not quite even. Having a little extra hangout seems to be pretty good. I'm going to place one more wrap in right here. Okay, now before we go forward and tie everything else in, we're going to go ahead and dub the body. Because these flies are tied so small and it's a dry fly, it really makes it easier. I mean, it can be a little bit challenging at first, but in the long run, when you learn how to do this, it makes it easier just to go ahead and dub your body now and then tie everything in. Now, if you're struggling with this, one thing you can do is you can actually take a drop of glue and put a drop of glue right on the back and just use your finger to kind of work it in a little bit. And so as we dub, the glue is going to catch the dubbing and keep it down, which is okay. You don't have to do this. This is just if you're struggling keeping all this small fibered material sticking forward. I did not quite dub that well enough. There we go. And we're just going to work this guy forward right to where we started. Remove any extra dry fly dub that you have, and we'll tie this in going forward. Forgot to grab my Peacock Curl. We're going to need that in a second. So next what we need to do is put in the wing. And for the wing, what I'm using is unique hair, just in white. And we don't need many strands here. You know, on a size 18, maybe 3 or 4. If you start tying these down to, say, a 24, you know, maybe you just need 1 or 2. Just to kind of give the impression of a wing. You don't need to worry about having an even number. We're not going to do anything crazy like make legs out of them or anything like that. So I'm sitting here struggling to get 4. Normally I already have it cut, but I'm doing this video on short notice. Okay. So I apologize for that. So I've got my fibers. Now you just want to cut these tips even or pretty close to even. And we're going to work our thread up to about a half bodkin width behind the eye. And I'm going to tie these in on top. Now again, if you struggle with it on a small fly, don't be afraid just to take this, lift it up, take a few wraps to the back, and then draw this material underneath until it disappears underneath the thread. Nope, we got 1 pop. That's okay. Actually, I had 2 pop. It's still okay. So like I said, on these flies, it's just meant to be an impression of a wing. So you can just get it in there. It's not gonna, none of this is gonna be a deal breaker when it's all said and done. So if they slide out on you, they slide out on you. Just trying to give you a flavor of a few different ways you can tie these things in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this material, we're going to fold it over into a loop, and we want that loop to stick out right to about the end of the abdomen, or where your dubbing starts. Now I'm just going to form that loop, pinch it down, and place a few wraps over, tying it off in place. Something about like that. If you're struggling doing that, again, something you can do is loop the material down under your thread, pull it up the backside, so you can see how the thread, I'm using it to lift my thread, and set it down. Make a turn. Now you can pull it through until you've got the wing where you want it. So there's a couple of ways you can put that wing in, especially if you're not used to working with these small hooks. And we're going to tie that guy off going forward, leaving a small gap behind the eye, about a half width of a bodkin. The other 2 did. They pulled out. Still no big deal. Now, with our thread forward, what we're going to do is we're going to take our hackle and we're going to prep it dry fly style. So we're going to take some fibers off of each side of the stem, and then on my tie-in side, the side that I'm actually going to wrap around the shank, this side is going to have a few extra barbules taken off, so that it's not, you can see that it's not quite even. And we're going to tie this in so that the shortest barbule, or the barbule that's closest to the tip, is lined up right with where the wing starts on the side. And we're going to just work this back right to where the wing starts. Now if you have a little bit of a tip left over, you want to get rid of that. A good choice to cut that out here is fingernail clippers. I really like these on situations like this. Get it out of there. Okay. Next, what we want to do is get 1 peacock curl, or you can get 2 if your peacock is fragile and it tends to break. You can grab 2. So I'll grab 2 just in case. We're gonna we're going to get the tip side coming forward. I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches or so because we really don't need much here. And now I'm going to tie this peacock curl in going forward. I just want to wrap one for the thorax. Get it packed in there pretty well. I'm going to come underneath, pull it up the front side of my thread. That's the way I like to tie it off. Put an extra wrap over. Now I've got it. Put one more into the back. Draw everything to the back, and I can tie it off with a few. And I can just pop that off with my finger. Oh, I missed it. Usually I can pop that off with my finger. And then we'll pop the back one off with my finger. So we are definitely on the home stretch here. So next we're just going to take our hackle. And swing it around. Trying to get it so the shiny side is forward. If your shiny side does not want to face forward, you can kind of do a sweeping motion around, and it usually will set that material up so that it's in the position that you want, or so that the shiny side is facing forward. And now we're just going to place 2 or 3 open wraps going forward. Don't need to overdo it. And we're going to tie this guy off right up front. And pop that stem. A couple left over. I'll take my fingernail clippers, and really that's it. Now you can wet whip the head here. So this is actually a really super easy fly to tie. There's just a few more steps involved compared to what we've done in the last few weeks. But it's actually a really easy fly to tie, and it's super effective. So I'm going to wet whip that. Get rid of it. I'm going to trim out that extra little barb. Cut my thread. Then you can pull all that hackle forward. And there you go. I think this is record time for a class for the videos, for the classes. So there you go. That's Roy's Special Emerger. Super simple little midge pattern. Very, very popular. We've covered so much with the midge session, with the dry flies and the nymphs. I think that this is for week 6, so I think you've probably picked up on all the little tips and tricks that I could actually drag this video on for another 15 minutes at this point. But I think you guys have probably got all that, and so I'll spare you on this one. So give it a try. Take it out, and when nothing else is working, toss this out there and let a fish pound on it. So yeah, there you go. Appreciate all of you guys that followed along for all 6 weeks of the midge session. Sorry. And yeah, we've got some more sessions coming, so stay tuned for those. If you found this video and you'd like to be a part of the actual tying classes, you can check us out over at Fly Tying for Beginners on Facebook. That's where we host all kinds of fun stuff, contests and giveaways and tying classes and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure to check that out, and always subscribe, like, and share the video especially if you found it useful. So other than that, happy tying, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next session.